Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another draft review. We will take a look at another LPL match, OMG versus Edward Gaming, the second game. I have already I've already selected most of the bans just because I don't really want to talk about that. I rather want to talk about the actual picks. Just as an information, Edward Gaming, they banned away the Varus and two picks that I wouldn't necessarily ban on red side because then you leave Syndra and Graves open. But that also means that there are two power picks available. So even if oh my god would, for example, pick Syndra, Edward Gaming could then take the Graves. So either one of them would get one good pick. And there are also this is wait, let me OMG pick Aphelios. The thing is, at this point in the draft, there's still three very strong ADCs at the moment available, and obviously other niche picks, kind of. That also makes sense in some ways. So there's Aphelios, there's Israel, and there's Syndra. All of them are really, really strong, and you as OMG opt into picking Aphelios, which means you're giving away Syndra and Graves. Two of the strongest picks you both give away because you prioritize the Aphelios. And I don't really understand it. For example, Syndra, first of all, is very, very strong and a flex pick, and Graves works well into a lot of matchups, especially matchups that are picked throughout the world. For example, Trundle, Listen. I think both of their matchups are really, really good for Graves. Olaf as well. So strong picks that a lot of teams or players tend to pick is Graves good in. This is why he also is strong. So give away two very strong picks because you prioritize the Aphelios. I mean, let's just say you pick the Syndra here, but you don't want to flex it because your AD carry can't play it or whatever. So you want to for sure play Syndra mid lane. So Edward Gaming then take the Graves, another strong pick, and then they probably want to pick the AD carry because they want to prioritize it. So they either say, alright, we want Ezreal, or they say, alright, we want Aphelios. I personally would say, if I was the coach of Edward Gaming or whatever, I was a player, I wouldn't opt into playing Aphelios into Syndra because Syndra obviously still is a flex pick. If you know that Syndra isn't a flex pick, then you might want to opt picking Aphelios. But Syndra does well into Aphelios. This is why I would rather pick the Ezreal here, and then you still get the Aphelios. And maybe they pick Aphelios, but then you get the Ezreal, for example. It's still fine. But you pick the Aphelios yourself and give away Graves and Syndra. Two very strong picks. And that's already basically, at least in my opinion, the draft is over. Edward Gaming already won the draft because they have two of the, possible three, I would say, very, 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 very strong picks. And what you gonna do? I would say the draft is over. But OMG, they picked up the Thresh, which is good. Gives you a little bit of safety for your Aphelios, and also playmaking tools, and Listen. This is also a mistake because Graves does well into Lee Sin. And Graves wins the jungle matchup into Lee Sin. And Lee Sin will be useless come mid game. If Edward Gaming can survive until like 15-20 minutes without Lee Sin being able to do a lot, maybe he takes one or two Drakes, that's fine. Because you're hard out scale now. Because Graves is late game carry and Lee Sin is only early game. You're hard out scale and your jungler wins the mature part. That means you had all the control about the river, and you have all the control about the objectives, about Rift Heralds, Barons, and Drakes. So draft now for sure is over, because there's still a possibility that you can make a good draft out of that. For example, you pick Jarvan, which has engage potential, who can get on top of Syndra or Graves, but Lee Sin, Graves can just E away, and then Lee Sin's gone. He can't do anything, right? The third pick from Edward Gaming was the Ezreal, which is a good response. That obviously shows that Syndra is not a flex pick, that she's mid lane. I would still say it's fine. Syndra does well into nearly every matchup, at least okay, and wins some matchups, especially like skill matchups. There are a lot of skill matchups with Syndra, and I would say in that scenario, OMG is the worst team and Edward Gaming is the better team. It makes sense. If you say, alright, we for sure want to pick the Ezreal. And then I already made one ban on the side of Edward Gaming, which is the Echo, which is fine, Syndra counter, and then two bans from OMG, because I think they're totally fine, they're totally bannable. Karma Nautilus, Both Fire Noodles gives you the engage potential that you miss, and Karma gives you poke that you also kind of already have, and maybe you want to also add another poke champion with whom we already went. It makes a lot of sense. And then Output Gaming ban away the Galio, which I don't agree with. I mean, Galio maybe could have been a good pick, but for example, in that scenario, you have three kind of squishy carry-ish champions. So, for example, LeBlanc would make a lot of sense to pick up, which OMG also did on B5. They picked up LeBlanc, which was a very good pick. It does well into all of these three matchups. It normally wins the matchup against Syndra, or is at least even. So really good pickup, and I would rather have seen a LeBlanc ban here than a Galio. I think Galio isn't really that scary compared to LeBlanc. Edward Gaming pick up the Leona. I now kind of disagree with out of the three picks left. Leona into Thresh. I mean, I understand the intention because Leona does quite okay into Thresh, but Leona is an aggressive champion that wants to do stuff early, while Ezreal is a scaling champion. He's quite weak early game, especially if he has no tier, no sheen. He's very weak, and if you decide to go Leona, you basically put a champion that wants to scale up and farm safe, or be safe and farm, with a champion that wants to engage and wants to fight early. So these two aren't quite. They don't. They don't belong to each other. I feel like, if you know what I mean. Another pick would have made more sense. Of course, you need some kind of playmaking tools, but for example, Blitzcrank is totally fine. Blitzcrank doesn't have to do a lot early. I mean, obviously, it's nice it's nice if he can do something early, but it's all fine. He kind of can scale up. Or Leona wants to do a lot early game because she's very, very strong early games. And then OMG picked up Renekton as their fourth pick or last pick. I mean, you now have like a lane where this thing can play through. So now Apple Gaming basically has to pick a tank or a champion that can play weak side. For example, it could look to play Gangplank, maybe Cho'Gath, who's kind of hard to dive. Maokai is also not easy to dive, because that's like the only way that Lee Sin can do a lot, right? He has to dive, and the only way to really dive or really threaten a lot of ganks are in top lane. Renekton and Lee Sin put together can dive champions quite easily, so you would like to opt into something that isn't really diveable. You could also pick Aatrox, for example. I think it would be fine, not the perfect matchup, but still okay. Aatrox not after level 6, not really easy to dive, but before level 6 obviously is a very easy target if his Q is down. But yeah, I think actually Maokai would probably be the best pick here. You have like damage, you have engage, which you kind of like. You only engage is like Leona ultimate or Leona E, which isn't really too great, but they decide to go for Wukong, which I disagree with. Both Renekton and Wukong I feel like are kind of early game champions, but I would say that Renekton is stronger early game, Wukong rather stronger than in mid game or late game, because he has kind of more playmaking tools, where Renekton can't really do a lot late game, especially versus a composition that Edward Gaming has with these three champions. Renekton, and that's also why Renekton doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yes, you have like a lane you can play through, but Renekton can't really reach Graves Syndra or Ezreal that easy, especially with a Leona that kind of tries to maybe protect them, even though Leona is like the only engage tool now, so that's, I think Leona might not be able to protect them, but anyways, I think Wukong is weak early game, or weaker compared to Renekton, and I would say that it's not the ideal pick, it's still a fine pick, an okay pick, but yeah, as I said, I would rather see like a Maokai or Cho'Gath maybe, something that cannot be dived? I think dived as easy as a Wukong can be, especially before level 6. Wukong can't really defend himself. Yes, he has like the possibility of his clone taking some time away, so I would say not the perfect pick. So I would say Edward Gaming hard won the draft, especially because they picked up the Graves and Syndra. Yeah, I don't understand why OMG did that. This was like the real reason why I wanted to make a video about this draft, because I just think that you can't just let the other team pick two of the strongest champions. You still have a good AD carry here as well. So these three champions, very, very strong. And yeah, I mean, Edward Gaming also won, but I mean, I could have told you already from the beginning, unless OMG would have been way better than Edward Gaming individually, the players individually, that Edward Gaming would win the game, or at least should have won the game. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this draft analysis video. If you did, I would like, I mean, yeah. If you enjoyed it, then leave a like, please. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time.